Nice. Love those, man. Good hits.
You drink and vape at the same time there, Jerry? Did you do that?
I mean, during the session, not like in the same moment, if that's what you mean.
Okay. Have you done that?
No, isn't that physically impossible?
No.
Fucking blue at the same time.
Yeah, he's trying to fucking drink and breathe at the same time.
Appreciate it. Oh, that's a great looking polo too.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you. My wife made it for me.
That's hot. I like it, man.
Like you gotta look the part a little bit.
Nice stack over there. Great seeing you, buddy. How you feeling?
Good? Everything is good. Nice to see you, Mr. Reddington.
Nice to see you too, Mr. Bruno.
I really apologize it's taken so long for us to get that. Sincerely apologize, but
no apology needed. I mean, we both made a living out of getting high on the internet, so we understand what it takes to be flexible.
Somehow you guys managed to pull it off. So I want some of whatever strains you guys are having. I want some of those.
Sometimes it didn't work out that way, though. I think just this Friday, Troy, those dabs in the Da Vinci did us in. Remember, we got kind of
toasted. Oh,
you had to say pause the show, pause it, cut.
How's it going as far as orders going out and all that? How's it going?
As you know from the get-go, that this was I take all these sorts of things as learning experiences, and I soak in as much as I can, and so far so good. I think I feel very humbled in the sense that there are people out there that are willing to take a gamble on something that is so weird. So on.
I think the response is positive. I mean, I've seen several people in the 420 vape zone community vaping on their cups and loving it. Somebody has two of them. I see somebody has two of them in the.
Nice.
Yeah, that was something that was surprising. We have a bunch of repeat customers. It's very surprising when we have. We've only launched for about a month and a couple of weeks, and we've had some people who've come back twice or three times to purchase again. It's kind of weird. It's like, is it that? Do you like it that much?
Like people find something that they love. They want to give that experience to someone else. Yes. And I think that happens often with remarkable products. And you kind of have a remarkable product here, both in performance and in delivery experience.
Thank you.
It's a vaporizer and it's a
Yes, I was really hoping there was just going to be one person that was crazy enough like me out there, and Jerry, that was going to say, "Oh, this is cool," just one, and then that would validate, the fact that we're not crazy alone or something. So I just feel very humbled the fact that there are people out there, and also feel a little bit fulfilled in the sense that we've been working really hard for ourselves and so many other people everywhere. The last year has been very, very challenging. Supply chain and COVID and all those things have been very wonky. So you've had to put in a little bit of an extra effort, and when you hear somebody say, "I like this," it makes it worth it. Someone who there's no strings attached. They're spending their money to try these things out, and they're coming back with positive feedback. That just makes me feel humbled and thankful.
Yeah, true. And even on the forum, the Fuck Combustion forum, where there's a lot of people have it, it's gotten a real good acceptance there too. So well done to you as far as the vape, the design, the quality control going out here in the early stages. I keep telling people on the forum that they don't get the cup and it holds them away. I just kind of go, look, man, forget the cup. It's a world-class vaporizer underneath it. Just get the vape. But it kind of leads into, we've got a couple questions for you tonight. Yes. And the first one is we really wanted you to tell it in your own words, because people come and go, what's with the fucking cup? So I want to know, I mean, you have a story that you tell beautifully, and we'd love to hear it.
There never really has been a aha moment or this particular story, but there've been a bunch of little stories that combine into one. So if you want me to answer that question now as to why the cup, or there are a lot of reasons, but I think the underlying reason is it stems from observation. Watching people. So first of all, taking a step back and listening to saying, okay, what are they missing, or what is it that they like, and then trying to understand their cohabits. So there was this very particular moment early on in the design stage where someone just said, if you really want to do something impactful, why don't you just sit down and hang around a bunch of people who are vaporizing and smoking all the time and just listen to them. Just hang around them and listen to them. And I spent a lot of time doing that, hanging around them, listening to them, asking questions, and then looking at a lot of correlations around how they behave and some of the things that they do. So I took a lot of those things and those experiences and all those listening, and that's how we end up with a cup. Now with the cup specifically, it's one of the oldest and most loved organic utensil we have as humans since the beginning of civilization. If you think about anytime there's two people gathered together, or even one person by themselves, that's something that's usually present. Whether you're drinking tea, you're drinking coffee, you're drinking wine, you're celebrating, there's always a cup there. There's always a drinking vessel. And I started to realize that the drinking vessel serves a specific purpose. It's just to allow liquid. And it didn't matter what type of liquid it was. We were willing to adjust the shape of the vessel. So if you're drinking tea and coffee, you have your tea and coffee mug. Well, what if you're having a shot of vodka? Well, that cup is very small. If you're drinking, if you go over to Oktoberfest, well, those mugs, some of them are the size of boots, riding boots, right?
You're gonna make a bowl the size of the Oktoberfest mug.
Yeah,
one of those, by the way.
So think about all of these. So if you think about a margarita glass or a cocktail glass, it's just very weird, different shapes. But we're willing to change all the shapes, and there's hundreds of them out there, and all those shapes are different. But what goes into those things are consistent, liquid. So the shape doesn't really matter as long as it can hold something to allow us to drink. That's what's important. So when I saw that and realized that, okay, this is what we do, and especially when you're conducting an aromatherapy session or you're vaporizing or you're smoking, it's a natural cohabit. So why would it hurt if you had one extra shape of a drinkware that was very accessible to you while you were conducting your session? Made it more convenient, but more importantly, it allowed it to exist in a space that people around looked at it as being part of or normal. We used to see a lot of articles about the early days of legalization in Canada, for example, and they would talk about, say, a medical cannabis company was about to release a new product, and the image that would be on that caption would be some hand that belonged to someone, and it would be unkept nails, very dirty, and there'd be a big fat blot right next to that in that picture, right? And they were just talking about we're talking about financial issues or financial items regarding this cannabis company, but still, they couldn't just resist the idea of using this image to portray who the cannabis user were, for example. Now, if we were to fast forward and go over to the alcohol side or the tea side or the coffee side, you're talking about an alcoholic drink or beverage. You would see the most finely dressed people sitting around the table, smiles all around them with a very lovely glass or very lovely bottle. You would not see someone who was disheveled or inebriated or under the influence. So there was a bit of a contrast in how people were being portrayed, and all these things were started to form in my mind, and I started to think, okay, what would it look like if they were talking about someone who was using cannabis or someone who was doing aromatherapy or vaporizing, and all they had in their hand was a glass, and they looked like normal people like you and me. Would that start to change the perception of people, perhaps? May that progressively try to move the needle towards a little bit more acceptance, perhaps? And if you take into the account that the utility is actually functional, so you can actually drink out of this drinkware like you would, normally. So yeah, you can go ahead and get smashed in your glass of wine, and I'll just be here with my nice Dark Side of the Moon strain and my carbonated water, what have you. And that was the idea. So those little stories on the side all sort of came together into a bunch of happy accidents, and that's why we have the cup.
When I met you, you told a real similar story, and then but you told it as I was using it for the first time, and so we were sitting there in the hotel room.
Yes.
You're telling that story, and I'm hitting the vape, and as we're having our conversation for a good hour, I realized, holy shit, he did it! Like, I just sat here and drank water from my cup and hit vape from my cup and didn't mess with the flow of the conversation, didn't even really present itself as something to distract. It was just like a cup normally is. Nobody really pays attention to this when I take a hit, and it just, or a sip, it's just kind of like it was. I was like, wow, he actually did it, and I really loved it. I loved that. It just kind of blended into the environment, so to speak, as I used it. And so well done. I love it that you pulled that off.
But we think that we're still in our infancy. Obviously, eventually we will get a cup to now start looking more and more like what a lot more people think a natural looking cup should look like. Right now, it does look futuristic, absolutely, but from a functional perspective, I think we're getting up to a right start. I feel proud enough to know that if my mom had this on her table, like she does, it's a beautiful conversation starter for her among her friends. And to say, "Oh yeah, this is the stuff my son made that allows me to consume my cannabis that she's consuming," or she has a eucalyptus flower that she uses sometimes to calm herself before she goes to bed, and it fits nicely into that narrative for her, versus something that, it feels abnormal. And that's the other piece of the thing too, as well. It's about what's normal and abnormal. A lot of people, especially here in the West, we feel, especially with legalization and anything, there's a lot of things that people should see as normal now. But in a lot of places, they still feel they're abnormal. So when we see someone, for example, using any kind of utensil, a plate, a spoon, a knife, we see that as normal. Whatever you consume with those things, we correlate them with normal. Now, the moment you start to do things like, say pop a pill, for example, or smoke a cigarette, traditionally those things are looked at as abnormal, and you have to be in an abnormal state for people to look at those things as normal. So for example, if you don't feel fine and you pop a pill, if you don't feel fine, you're in an abnormal state. You pop that pill, it's trying to get you back to that normal state. That's accepted. If you popping that pill now for recreational purposes, then that's abnormal. Now with the cup, what it does is it takes something that traditionally would be looked at as abnormal in a lot of places, like, a vaporizer, and just bringing out this foreign element that's puffing out smoke and vapor, and trying to append that to something that looks like a glass. So you can now start to see where people's perception might be impacted a little bit more progressively or positively when they see and say, okay, he's lifting something to his face, and that thing looks like a drinkware. And that looks like a normal behavior to me, until the cloud comes out afterwards, and then the conversation goes somewhere else.
And I remember a year ago, Troy and I were running around Vegas, and I had this with me the whole time. And I went with it with water in it everywhere I went to drink water. And everywhere I went, they wouldn't let me bring my water in when I brought it with this. So I had to chuck it. But then at the restaurant, I had it on the table and made them pour my water in that, and I just drank out of it from there. But
we're getting some reports of people getting them in a bunch of different jurisdictions, and big thanks to all the people with the world. We've got people from Israel to Hong Kong and Dubai, France, who are purchasing Bowl, and it's going through customs. And in 3 instances so far, it's been recorded as a USB drinking cup, heated mug, what have you. So it seems to at least to a certain regard, give people that first read, as to say, oh, this is a drinking vessel. So it completes the mantra we were aiming for, which is at ease in your hands and at home on your table. And in those two places, you should always feel natural.
When I flew back from Vegas and they went through security, I had it like this and this separate. I said, I'll just take the parts apart. They don't know what the fuck it is. And she picked it up as she was looking at it, and she goes, what is this? Is this a Bluetooth speaker? And I thought, that's brilliant. It's a Bluetooth speaker. And I said, no. She goes, well, what is it? And I said, it's a part of a vaporizer. And she goes, oh, okay, and let me go. But I thought, oh yeah, that looks like a total Bluetooth speaker would look like if you wanted a Bluetooth thing.
So, mesh on it.
You know, the other question we wanted to ask you was, I know when I first got wind of what you were doing, the first thing that struck me was the team that you had assembled. I was drawn to with that team. I've got to see what they're up to. Can you tell us a little bit about why you selected them and even how you got them to join you? And I mean, you know, how'd you bring those guys together, and who are they?
You're talking of the gentleman, Dr. Arno Hayskamp and Mr. Jorge Fernandez.
Yeah.
And among many other people too as well in the behind the scenes. Before I started, I became a headhunter after I decided I didn't want to fly planes for a living anymore. One of the things I honed in my skill sets over that time when I was a headhunter was I had the luxury and the opportunity to hire and headhunt in so many different diverse fields. There are very few jobs that I don't think I've hired people for, headhunted for. And in order to headhunt for those roles, I would spend a lot of time understanding the job, understanding the dynamics of that position, what drives a person, who is this individual, and then you take all of that and then try and figure out how they fit within a specific team. So yes, you might be able to do the job, but do you fit in this team with this people and this personalities that exist within that group? So those skill sets came in very handy when I decided to start Tafee. The first thing I said was, if this is even going to be if we're going to be remotely successful to make something that I would want to use, it's going to require a lot of hands on deck, and because there's so many things I don't know and I have so much to learn. So I use those skill sets from my headhunting days to say, how do I go out and find who are the best individuals that fit the profile of what I'm trying to do and how they can help me achieve that. And these individuals fit that profile very well. Not only because they had the experience and in regards to what they had done before, the trail that they'd already blazed in the industry, and they'd done that. A lot of those things they'd done behind the scenes. They're not loud individuals. They're not looking for the spotlight. They're just looking to really progressively contribute towards moving the industry forward. So I reached out to Dr. Arno Hayskamp first because he was key, and he was head of research for a company that one of the firms I worked with had taken public. It was the largest medical cannabis company in the world back then, called Bedrocan International. Bedrocan had him looking after all the quality assurance, all the testing, all the regulatory issues. And prior to that, he had worked in Storz & Bickel, looking after their medical certifications for the Volcano vaporizer. And so when I reached out to him, I explained to him what I wanted to do. The first thing he said was no. He's like, I'm not interested in working in, you know how many people reach out to him to want to work on something funky and crazy. And I said, just give me a minute and I'll get to the point of why I want you and what exactly we're trying to do. And I explained everything to him and showed him the concept and showed him all the research I'd already done and the work I'd already done. He was quite impressed. And he's like, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. I'm willing to bring my best to the table to see how I can help you. And in addition to that, I'm willing to open up my network to you. And within his network was also Jorge Fernandez, who he had worked closely with too on other projects with Bedrocan and within the mini VAP as well. Jorge had already blazed his own trail with the mini VAP. And one thing I loved about the mini VAP was the fact that the people who owned the mini VAP, they loved the mini VAP. It didn't matter that it wasn't in every single retail store. I love those things, those diamonds in the rough, whereby people who own these products, they cherish them. And that's what I saw as a connection between the mini VAP and the amount of attention to detail Jorge pays to his customer and his client base. And I really liked that. And I felt there was a lot of things that we could learn from that. And his engineering background, he runs an engineering firm that's focused on, heat engineering and heat transfer. management when it comes to medical devices with Hermes Medical Engineering. So he already had a lot of the framework that I was looking for as for someone who was going to oversee all our certifications and all the things that had to happen on the back end in regards to how we calibrated his device and all sorts of things, and all the experience he had from Minivap. The question was going to be, are these guys willing to share? And one thing I was established from day one was that it seemed like they were just so excited to say, okay, if anyone is willing to work with us in a collaborative way, that's exactly how we would love to work, and we think we can achieve great things doing that. So when we came together, we had conversations. Arno Hayskamp was also running a bunch of master classes. Then he runs cannabis master classes where he goes to different jurisdictions and meets with people from different government institutions and educates them on how to bring about the legal framework for the cannabis programs. We participated in some of these events. We got to know each other a lot better as we moved on, and the rest is history.
That's fantastic, man. Yeah, those guys are respected by many, and anybody who has a Minivap that I know, as soon as I told them about this and Jorge's involvement, they were like, "I can't wait to see it." So, and Troy, were you choking on that thing a little bit there?
Holy shit! That was the third hit on that capsule. Pod. What's your preferred term for the
pot?
The pot.
Yeah. So we wanted to use a lot of organic names as well. So that's why we call that ceramic zirconium thing the pot, because from the get go, historically we've always referred to pot as the bad word, or if you have something that's going into an oven or going into an oven,
it's a pot.
It's a pot.
I tell you what, in terms of vaporizers, this shit hits.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't think I've ever had an on-demand vaporizer that's simple hit that hard, that simply. Like that thing hit. Like that was
a good choker right there, man. I've seen you do that on some desktops before, but that was impressive. So
I did the Eastern breathing thing where I filled my chest cavity and then let my belly fill. You get like double the lung capacity that way. It felt like mashed potatoes coming out of my lungs.
Yeah, we need to work on a bit of a warning system. I think the thing is people underestimate how powerful it could hit. Because it's so cool. You don't know. Maybe we need to work on something whereby people have a little bit of a visual reference or some sort of reference to saying, okay, stop.
Yeah.
Now.
No, I think it's great.
I don't think people have that problem. I'm an exception to the rule when it comes to inhale time, inhale length, and shit like that. I've handed a lot of people different vaporizers, and a lot of them have the problem of not inhaling long enough to even get vapor, and they won't have that problem with this vaporizer. But that's the problem with a lot of vaporizers that are like convection and stuff like that, where it takes a longer inhale.
Yes.
Not with this vape.
No, you nailed the ease. It's easy to use, and the best thing is it's consistent. And even with all the variables that the user brings to the table, that's the part that nobody ain't been able to do. Like, I've got a dozen on-demand convection vapes that can hit this hard, but none of them you can do it hit to hit to hit. You got to dance with it. You got to dance with it for a long time. Good luck getting your friends to use it. And even still, you absolutely must stir. There will be tunneling. There will be charring on top. Those kind of things. The things that I never experienced with this vape. I've never seen it tunnel. I've never charred on it. I stir out of habit instead of necessity. Just things that I'd almost wondered if we could have in this vape that I've been dreaming of for years, and it was just great to finally see it happen. I mean, it's pretty incredible. It was easily one of my absolute favorite portables.
I'm very honored. Thank you so much, Sherry. And the standards that you set, I know the kind of devices you use, and over the years, I obviously spent a lot of time watching Mr. Reddington too as well. Review devices and talk about what he likes and what he doesn't like. And I mean it when I say that most of the time, during development and from concept, and it was mostly spent just learning, literally just listening and learning. And it wasn't learning to think that we could improve, we can make everything like better, everything, or we can make the best of everything. No, but we knew that there were some key points that if we could pay attention to that and continue to listen to those things, that we could make a little bit of an incremental progress. And if you take all these things little by little, from the upside down heating system and the cooling and how agronomic it is in your hand, and how, you don't, from a cleaning perspective, it's less of a headache when your heat source is totally non-contaminated at all. It doesn't have any risk of contamination versus just your stem itself. All these little things end up being more than the sum of their parts. And that's what makes the experience memorable, in my opinion. Especially, from a first-time user. And that's one of the things that we have to start thinking about is when you're a first-time user and you're being introduced, now we feel very comfortable with where we are from, how things are advancing from a legalization standpoint, for example. But when you start thinking about the multitudes of people who are going to be introduced, that experience, that first experience is going to be important in regards to how they maintain a sustainable, enjoyable experience as either a cannabis user or conducting aromatherapy sessions.
What about some of the design? Like, you've been working on the design for a long time outside of Jorge's involvement. Like, you get a lot of design awards based on the actual artistic kind of side to it, right?
Yes. So that was our first testing ground, is to say, we know what we're trying to design. We will feel validated if we were to take this product and go to places that other similar type products can't go to, and see what responses we get.
Oh,
So let's take it to where vaporizers can go to. Let's go to these awards where they wouldn't even usually allow vaporizers to even compete, or let's take it to mainstream awards that Apple and Dyson and Tesla would go for, and Logitech, and let's see what they say. And that's what we did. So we went to the Good Design Awards in Chicago. We went to the A Design Awards in Asia. We went to the DNA Design Awards in France. There was another one that we went to in Italy too as well. So we went to these awards, entered into these award competitions, and explained, in $20 words, all our design ideas, and the feedback was great. We won a bunch of them. We won about 5 in total. Actually, all of the ones we entered in, we won an award. We won in 4 competitions. We took the top honors, and then we took a bronze in one of them. So for us, that was just a validation to say, I guess if artsy, regular people that don't necessarily consider cannabis products, or not cannabis users, or not even aromatherapy users or whatever, they looked at it and it spoke to them. The first read was nice. The feel, the aesthetics, the touch, the functionality, the usability, these things made sense to them. So for us, it was a validation to say, okay, we're hitting the right notes. I think we're hitting the right notes. And that's what gave us the confidence to say, okay, yes, we can move forward with this. Because if they don't get it, then definitely the guys who we're going after are not going to get it, and then even the guys that we might not be necessarily going after are not going. No one's going to get it. So I think that gave us a validation that we needed early on, more fuel for our fire, so to speak, so that if someone is saying, "Well, what the heck with the cop? You guys, it doesn't make any sense," so we're like, it makes sense to some people, so I guess it's okay. So we knew, from a visual and a cosmetic standpoint, if we can validate that the design makes sense for mainstream, if we design a very good performing product, we will get validation from the users themselves, right? So that's what we're now going into now, which is where we're getting into people's hands, and they're coming back and people are saying, it's medicating me more than my other device, because I don't know, whatever it is, but I just feel it's more potent. I don't know how to explain it to you. These are the messages I'm getting. It's just hitting me differently, 2 parts in and I'm already floored or something. So that validation is now coming as a secondary to now add up to the other validation from a design perspective, from a design, usability, functionality. these things have to come together in order for you to have a viable long-term product. And I think we're just starting to do that just now. So we'll look forward to the future with some excitement.
Congrats on the awards. I wanted to say that earlier, but I don't want to interrupt.
No worries. Thank you. Maybe we might get one from you guys at some point. I'm sure there will be some on the cards. You guys have been putting a lot of very impressive and lovely products through their paces on your show. So perhaps end of 21, we might get the Troy and Jerry award category that we might slide into, hopefully.
I like that idea. I like that.
Well, I'm going to give you guys, I think this officially is my first interview. I'm very, very honored to be with you guys. All right, gentlemen, thank you so very much. I won't keep you guys much longer. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you spending the time with us and explaining in your words. It's good shit.
Thank you very much.
Did you drink and vape at the same time there, Jerry? Did you do that?
I mean, during the session, not like in the same moment, if that's what you mean.
Okay. Have you done that?
No, isn't that physically impossible?
No.
Drink and blue at the same time.
He's trying to fucking drink and breathe at the same time.
Like at the end of a hit, you can take a sip, you can drink some, and then exhale.
Have you seen that?
Oh, okay.
Have you seen that product?
What?
Have you seen what?
A product called Knock Yourself Out.
No.
Okay. All right. It's this contraption that you attach to a beer bottle. Yeah.
Okay, I do know that. Where it's like a 3-in-1. You can do like a gravity bong type thing. You can put like the joint in it. You can chug the beer and then smoke the weed.
You chug the beer and then the weed comes out at the same time. So you drink the beer and then I never used it, but I've seen a bunch of things about it. It is crazy. And it got me thinking that maybe there are a few people who can suck and blow at the same time. I don't know.
I'm going to get a shot here from Troy.
Here, boom. This thing.
Dude, I just did what you said. That was fun.
Oh, whoa, look at that. It works over a solo cup.
Oh, no, that's brilliant. That really is a knockout.